kind of like the two of you. About 10 years ago, I was going through a lot of mental health challenges, and
we all had anxiety 10 years ago.
I know.
Cute.
Is it something about that age range when you're like
crippling anxiety?
I'm one panic attack away from a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Happy belated birthday, Pam. How was your birthday?
Thank you. It was nice. It was really chill. I've just been enjoying having chill birthdays the last few years. So nothing crazy. No pool parties or anything like that.
What does a chill birthday look like? Self-care?
Sometimes. Everybody that wants to come hang can. That's like the number one rule. But my only other rule is that you can't judge me for how many times I want to stop for coffee during the day. It's like the one day a year I don't want to hear about it. So there's like the two rules. Like everybody can come and hang and nobody can judge me for how many times I want to stop for craft coffee.
So how many times did you get coffee yesterday or Saturday?
4.
4 times. Were you shaking by the end of that?
No, I was doing pretty good, actually.
Damn.
There's like food in between and like walking. I just wanted to have like a city day.
That sounds really nice. I can also tell you that that day coincided with something else that happened this weekend, which is that I was a bad friend and I forgot to text Pam on her birthday. So Pam, happy birthday. I'm so sorry. I was okay. I became aware of this when we were doing roll call because Andrew was like, oh yeah, Pam's birthday was Saturday. And I had a like, oh fuck. Like I totally just like wasn't paying attention. And the thing that I pointed out that I will never forget again, we are both 19 girlies. Our birthdays are on the 19th of our respective birthday months. So
are they?
They
I don't think I
are.
ever connected those things. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
So
and Andrew's actually not far off from that. So
23rd.
Yeah.
So and Pam didn't come to roll call yesterday, so we thought that maybe she was really mad
at
Laura.
Partied so hard. Oh yeah.
No, you were so mad at Laura that you didn't show up. You didn't want to talk with her.
That was such a fluke. My phone is very old and I've just been like putting off upgrading it because I'm indecisive. And it's like clearly time because it did not charge overnight. And then I try and charge it in the car and it's not charging. And I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just going to raw dog it. No phone today. And between all that, I just completely forgot about roll call. And
I think that's a major red flag to get a new phone. If you're out and about and you can't use your phone, I think it's time to get a new phone.
I know. So anyway, like it's happening this week.
It's a safety issue.
I did get it to charge.
Point.
I know. It's like, it's so silly. So anyway, I'm going to upgrade my phone this week. That's going to be my birthday present to myself.
Okay. But back on topic here. Are you a little mad that Laura didn't wish you a happy birthday?
Oh,
even a little bit.
Laura and I are never going to be friends again.
I knew it.
No.
It's over.
I put a lot of weight into friends wishing me a happy birthday.
Do you really?
A little too much. Maybe it's a little unhealthy.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Like, I think that like I have definitely been there. Like, I've either like forgotten until the end of the day. I've definitely like texted somebody at like 11 o'clock and it's definitely past their birthday in their time zone and been like, oh, like, I hope you had a great day.
Yeah.
And so like, it happens, you know? And like depending on who it is, it's like everybody gets a pass.
Well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Pam, I think fight. Andrew's just disappointed that you're not as petty as he is.
Yeah, Andrew really wanted there to be a fight because he did text me.
Well, it was so funny yesterday hearing live, and executive producers can hear this on our Patreon. Hearing live, Laura realized that she forgot to wish.
No, literally,
I'm gonna go listen up.
I got a kick out of it. Yeah. Because I wanted to spend the call talking about Pam's birthday, and this was news to Laura that you had a birthday over the weekend. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll never forget again. It's cemented into my memory now.
Yeah, because Andrew's going to guilt trip you
one
if
time,
Pam
and then
doesn't.
you're like, I can't in good conscience do this another time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Somebody did forget, or I suspect purposely didn't not one of you two, wish me a happy birthday, my most recent birthday. And like I just said a couple minutes ago, I put some weight into that. So that's sticking with me. I'm holding that grudge. And I'm not saying.
You can't just tee that up and not tell at least Laura and I.
Well, I'm not going to say it on air.
Can we get in after dark? Or
can you just text it to us?
I'll definitely text you. Okay.
Okay.
But I was like, you know what? I'm going to remember that because I'm always good.
It's nice to be remembered. It's nice to be thought of. But I think that depending on who it is, it's like, and it's like if they forget like multiple years, I think that's when you start to notice more. If somebody forgets like one time, it's like, oh, like that person forgot. That makes me sad. You know, maybe depending on who it is. But like, but if it's somebody that is like constantly showing up for you throughout the year and showing that they care, then you just like assume like, oh, like something must have happened to that person, or they must have been like really busy that day.
Yeah.
You know, because like, you know, who like genuinely loves you. If you're second guessing that person for not wishing you a happy birthday, then chances are there's other stuff that's weighing on that friendship already.
I think that's
and that's
really
just like
call.
Another straw.
Yeah.
That's like kind of starting to tip the weight in a bad direction.
I fully agree with that. It's I'll just say that it surprised me. Because all things considered, it should have happened, I feel. So I will remember this. Putting it in my journal.
Ooh.
Who's on the shit list next year for their birthday?
Right. Do you ever like, you know what happens to me a lot is like, I always think like, oh, this person's going to forget. And then when they remember, I'm just like, I'm going to cry because they remember. It's not like, it's usually not friends. It's usually like family. Cause I don't trust like most family to remember, but every once in a while it's like, cause like my younger brother is like hit and miss every year. But to be fair, like I've definitely forgotten to wish him a happy birthday before too. And so whenever he does remember and he like texts me personally and not like just through the family chat, it's always like, oh my God, he remembered.
I'm so proud.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Well, and like I think Pam, you specifically have brought up on the show over the last year, like it's nice to be thought of. It's nice to be remembered. And that's when, you know, we've talked about this through the lens of, hey, I was just thinking of you. Hope you've been well after you haven't seen somebody in like 10 years, you know, somebody from high school or whatever. So yeah, kind of the same thing going on there. Well, speaking of shit lists and feuding, Colbert and his parent company are feuding, right, Pam? Stephen Colbert, this has been one of the talks of the week.
Yeah, this was huge news. Colbert got on his show, The Late Late Show, and announced live on air that they were getting canceled, but in 10 months' time. And this was shocking news for a number of reasons. First of which is that even though you know, we've heard before, there's been like some more inside entertainment baseball news stories about how late night shows in general are kind of struggling to keep up with ratings because most people don't want to like tune in that late, especially when you can just watch highlights the next day on YouTube, for example, but they don't really count those together. They're like two separate units of measure. So that's why, you know, streaming has moved to putting late night shows behind paywalls after the fact and stuff like that. But anyway, Colbert has the best ratings of late night in general right now. Like he's the most watched late night show. So it was a shocker in that regard. And then right after this news story broke, the Writers Guild immediately announced that they were actually going to launch an investigation because they think that there might be some foul play at work, specifically with regards to the fact that Colbert has been very outspoken against Trump in the past. And Trump
pretty much daily.
Yeah, Trump made no secret of the fact that he was really pleased to hear that Colbert got the shaft. And so as far as like CBS is concerned, they're basically saying that it is a financial decision only, but they also have recently had to, you know, go forth with a $16 million settlement. And they're also thinking that perhaps like the merger between Paramount, which is CBS's parent company, and Skydance was in limbo as a result of maybe like choosing to keep or to axe Colbert. So there's a lot that's kind of going into this investigation, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know if you two have been like seeing some of the highlighted clips that have come out since this happened.
I'm going to watch it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely like, you can tell the attitude is like, well, they're going to cancel us anyway. So let's just like throw out all the stops. Like he does not
go
care
even harder
anymore.
on Trump, basically.
Fuck it.
He said,
basically.
Yeah, he told Trump to go fuck himself last night.
Yeah, tell Trump to go fuck himself. And it's also been really nice to see. So did Jon Stewart, for the record, and I guess I don't think they coordinated that, which is great. But like, yeah, I mean, so far he's had a lot of support from not just the other late night hosts, but also a few other people in Hollywood. Sandra Oh also was just on his show, and she was like cursing. She literally put a curse on CBS and Paramount. I don't know if you guys saw that. She was like, "A pox upon your houses."
But we are in a scary time right now where the media is absolutely being influenced by Trump's government.
Well,
you
take a look
mentioned
at what's
the
happening to
merger.
PBS too.
Yeah.
Like,
PBS,
he's
NPR.
completely defunding PBS, which is a completely unbiased public news broadcasting program.
These stupid settlements that these networks have been making with Trump just to stay in his good graces. You mentioned this merger that Viacom and Skydance want to get done. The federal government has to sign off on that merger, and Trump will intervene if he doesn't get his way.
I think that's what it is.
Really?
It's
do
really
you buy into that?
I do, honestly, because what kind of sense does it make to say, well, we're having financial troubles, so that's our reason. Y'all just settled for like $16 million. You didn't have to settle. Like, people settle when they don't want to have to go to court. And to me, that just says that they're cowards because they didn't want to run the risk of going against Trump and losing. So they wanted to try and take the easy way out to try and print as much money as they can. But I think this is going to come back to bite them in the ass. As a matter of fact, a lot of traditionally liberal institutions have been rolling over like this over the last 6 months. Media outlets, universities. We put Columbia University on blast a couple of months ago for this. They're all cowards. Like, put your fucking money where your mouth is and don't allow yourself to be bullied. Don't roll over. Don't capitulate.
Yeah. And it's funny because now every move they make is going to be scrutinized. Like today, and clearly they did this towards the end of the week last week to try and bury the news story. I'm talking about CBS and Paramount. Today, it was kind of quietly announced, but it wasn't so quiet because, again, all eyes are over here right now, that Paramount just spent $1 billion to acquire the streaming rights to South Park's catalog. They want that on Paramount Plus, and it's notoriously been housed at HBO Max, even though it is a show that runs on Comedy Central, which is also part of Paramount's big blanket. So yeah, it's like, well, if it's really a financial issue, then why are you spending that much money on streaming rights, right? You should be a little bit more frugal with your money.
Right.
If there's good news for Colbert, it's that his career will probably, if he wants it to, flourish after this. We saw what happened after Conan was fired from The Tonight Show. He went on to have an extremely successful podcast, an extremely successful show or two on HBO Max. Like, he does this travel show that I think is great. He's had tons of success. Colbert could go launch a Substack, launch a podcast, bring back some version of Colbert Report on his own if he can legally do that. I don't know. But he has a bright future ahead of him if he wants to continue being in the public eye, I think. People will follow him. He's my favorite late night host currently.
Yeah, and honestly, I really hope, and he's smart. I think, there's also some worry for Jon Stewart too, because as Pam said, Jon Stewart is also under the same umbrella as The Late Show is. And he also, on his show, as you pointed out earlier, he gave a big fuck you to Trump and to the network as well, full well knowing that there could be consequences for that, right? And I just really hope that the two of them don't feel like they need to be tied to a network to be successful, because they have big enough followings that they could go solo. They really,
I was thinking about that too. I mean, like, to be fair, I think that the best move for them would be to just launch something on their own we saw how the problem with Jon Stewart didn't do so well because Apple got a little scared, right?
Right.
Yeah. He wanted to talk about China, and they were like, no.
Right. And Apple was like, no.
I guess a good move for them in hindsight, thinking about Trump taking office again. Trump could have been pissed that Jon Stewart had a show on Apple, and he could have threatened more tariffs against Apple unless they fired Jon Stewart.
I do think the nice thing is that, like, because a lot of people are like, oh, who cares? Like, people like this, like, they're loaded. They've already made their money. I actually think that, like, in this case, it's good because that's probably why they're not scared to, like, completely tank their careers on these networks. Even John in his monologue, I think it was about 12 minutes. It must have been about half the show that he dedicated to talking about what happened with Colbert and the Late Late Show. But he was basically saying that, like, Colbert took a big risk going over to late night because it was something new for him. And he's like, and I just went out to pasture. So he's like, he's not scared to disappear anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think that they will. I think they know that they're needed right now. Their voices are needed. It's nice to see that Jon Stewart understands that now, because it would have been nice to have had him during the Trump years. And we just didn't. So hopefully maybe they'll do something together if they both get,
hey, they should launch
pulled.
a podcast.
Hey,
Jon Stewart has one. That's actually my recommendation for this week. It's The Weekly Show with Jon Stewart. That's his podcast, and it is very, very good. His most recent episode about economics is definitely a must listen.
They, I assume that podcast is owned by Daily Show, Viacom.
I think they must be.
He should do his own podcast. That'd be even better.
I totally agree. He does. That's the thing. Like, he can curate his own team, and he probably has people that he could take with him.
John, hire me as an editor, please.
Honestly,
give me my big break, John. Your current podcast needs some echo removal for starters. I've listened to it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, buy Millennial. Can we tell them that?
Sure.
So Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert were pitching this show. Buy us.
Oh, well, or alternatively, Jon Stewart, here's an exciting opportunity. We invite you to join our podcast. We'll give you a platform. How does that sound?
Right.
Come on in. We'll let you in. Has anybody else offered that yet? I don't think so.
That's true. We always have a chair for you.
We have a Micah chair available for you. We'll rename it the John chair. Well, I guess we could kind of file this story under WTF News because of just how insane all of this is. And speaking of WTF News, we have to, of course, talk about this drama that went down at the Coldplay concert last week. But we're going to save that for After Dark. We're going to talk about when our friends or people we know have been caught cheating as well. Maybe not on the Coldplay Jumbotron, but elsewhere. So we'll talk about that and all the elements around that and a lot more on After Dark this week, available at patreon.com/millennial. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this new study that found that younger generations are no longer looking at wealth, status, and occupation as the gold standard for defining success. How refreshing. We'll be right back. So I saw this study that I wanted to talk about this week. It really brings me joy and gives me hope for the future because we've gotten so tied to our careers and people are finally pushing back on that idea. There was this new study that found that younger generations, millennials, Gen Zers, when they think about defining success, they're no longer looking at wealth, status, and their occupation as the gold standard, what the main thing to achieve is. And this actually represents a generational shift. 51% now rate their mental and physical health as the primary measure of future success. So this is what they're working toward, or maybe they already have. They want to continue maintaining it. Cash is not the primary measure of success anymore. So that's great. After physical and mental health, relationships with family or children were second. The amount of money they have is third. Occupation/career was fourth. Improving/growing as a person was fifth. Relationship with a spouse or partner was sixth. And being able to travel and have new experiences was seventh. The list does go on and on from there. I did find it kind of funny that someone's relationship with their spouse or partner was 5th on the priority list to define success.
It's funny, but I'm not surprised because that's probably why the divorce rate is still so high.
Yeah.
And you hear about like this all the time that like people prioritize their partners until they have kids, for example, and then they just kind of forget about being in love because they're raising the kids, and then the kids go off to college, and then they're like, we don't know how to rekindle this, so
yeah.
I guess
we're done.
Me is odd is that I would lump your spouse or partner in to the family category because, like, isn't that person your family?
Right.
Yeah.
But they broke them out separately, which I appreciate because now we see the difference.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
People are over here telling on themselves, is what you're saying.
Yeah. But to that point, it is weird that like the spouse doesn't come before family because that, I think that if you do commit to somebody, whether that's with like marriage or just like the long-term notion that you're going to be together for a while, you do kind of have to set family aside to make sure that like you're still working as a unit. So.
Yeah. And your spouse really should come first.
Because you can't be like just having your family, go against your partner. For example, like at some point your partner's opinion needs to weigh more.
And when you're growing up, especially when you're younger, the questions that are always asked to you and what we think is always prioritized is, are you dating? When are you going to get married?
Yeah.
Are you meeting anyone new? What happened to that relationship? Stuff like that.
It's all fun and games until you tell grandma you can't go over that year for Christmas. And then, it's like, didn't you want me to get married?
Didn't you want grandchildren?
Yeah, didn't you want grandchildren?
Usually I think the friction with that is they do want those things, but they want them on their terms. So like
100%.
they want it to be what they imagined you would do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But looking at this report further, those surveyed grew up with the internet and social media and have more access to information and lifestyles than previous generations. They scroll through feeds, listen to podcasts, and watch videos to see how other people are succeeding or failing before they reach middle age, which is typically defined as between ages 40 to 60. Giving priority to physical and mental health reflects what they have learned and experienced. So maybe we can pat ourselves on the back because we talk about work-life balance and people are listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
COVID-19 reminded millennials and Gen Z adults of the fleeting nature of good health and spurred a mass work from home movement as well. This opened their eyes to other less stressful options and measures of success. And I think we've talked about this a little bit over the years. Remember the term revenge travel, which popped up in like 21, 22. People were traveling to make up for all the lost time during COVID. Right. Kind of similar, right?
Well, and we talked about the quiet quitting trend as well. That was very big at that time.
And Beyonce was
early
quit
retirement?
your job.
Not early retirement. What was the mini retirement?
I think the mini retirements we talked about too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, for anybody who maybe missed that, you take a retirement, you basically quit your job, and then you just find another job at the end of your mini retirement, which seems way too risky to me. I could never, but props to the people who it's worked out for, including one of our listeners. I know they wrote in and described a mini retirement that they took, and it worked out really well for them. It is interesting that America really did become a career-first culture. Like, that's all that it's about out here. And maybe that's shifting now, thank God. But how did we get here?
I think it's probably at the end of the day because the American dream is so rooted in the belief of upward mobility through hard work. And like on the surface, that doesn't sound like a terrible deal, right? Like if you get upward mobility for working hard, seems fair. The problem is that's not reality for people anymore. When you think about our grandparents' experience and anyone older than them, no one retires from the same company that they've worked at for 35 years anymore. far fewer jobs are offering things like pensions. Unions are getting busted all the time, and companies are actively fighting workers trying to unionize to get better working conditions for themselves. So a lot of the things that made that exchange of hard work for upward mobility and like improved life standards, a lot of like the protections that kept those things in place have disappeared. Yeah. So you're basically giving hard work with not so many guarantees. You have to take a lot more, like it feels kind of like a bargain sometimes, like a bit of a gamble.
You also just can't, like, you hear all the time. I feel like everybody has a grandparent that's like, I just walked in and asked if I could get a job in the mailroom. And they literally work their way up to the top floor. It's like, that doesn't happen anymore, you know?
No, there are those shoot your shot moments. And maybe people should try to do that more often. But now we're all so insulated that the idea of like showing up somewhere and just asking.
But a lot of times you still remain stagnant because, to Laura's point, there is very little opportunity for upward mobility before you could start from the ground floor and work your way up. Even in my mom's line of work, so she's just one generation removed from us, she started entry level and now she's, way higher than that. So yeah, it's just there are a few institutions still working institutions where you are able to work your way up without having to rely so heavily on higher education, which that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. And I'm somebody who has benefited from that level of upward mobility, but I also recognize that some of that comes down to being in the right place at the right time. It doesn't mean that I didn't work hard. It doesn't mean, Pam, that your mom didn't work hard, but some of that really does come down to timing and knowing when to grab the opportunities. Like you said, Andrew, when to shoot your shot. And I think that is just harder now than it was in the past. Again, speaking to the things, the guardrails and the protections that are not as frequent nowadays.
Yeah. Courtney, who's listening in our Discord right now, says, I ended up quitting my job because my mental health was just really bad and ended up taking a 2-week trip that seemed to help a lot. I actually head back home tomorrow. Good for you, Courtney.
Hey, good for you.
I think it takes a lot of courage to be like, F this, my job is killing me, I'm out. Because we depend on that income so much, it seems impossible to actually quit the job. I have a friend whose job was just utterly consuming their life. And they finally took the very bold step of quitting the job and taking a pay cut, but they're way happier. It's just not, like I just read from these survey results, it's just not all about money for people anymore, because what is the point of killing yourself over a job if you're not happy? But then, we mentioned higher education, when we're growing up in school, when we're going through school, high school, middle school, even elementary school, what's the goal? The best college possible so you can get the best job possible. It's all about the job when we're growing up, that job that we're working towards.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so conditioned to prioritize work and make sure we're making enough money. And of course, everything gets more expensive. So that's a factor too. It's well, I gotta continue excelling at my career because I gotta continue affording everything.
Well, and now they're saying the quiet part out loud with openly expressing fears that due to the falling birth rate, there aren't going to be as many taxpayers.
Yeah.
And it's just oh, okay. So some of this was about having a system. And granted, you need that. You do need that system to exist in order for the society to function, but it just kind of feels like there has been an intentional effort to whittle down the institutions that sort of Well, really the unions at the end of the day that really advocated for the better working conditions and better contracts and things like that.
Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, I'm thinking like Germany, Scandinavia, other European countries, they have more labor protections. Laura was talking about labor protections earlier. Shorter work weeks, 4-day work weeks are more common elsewhere. Stronger unions. Laura was mentioning those. France, too. I mean, remember when the French got this law passed? This was back in 2016. French workers got the right to disconnect from emails out of work hours. Can you imagine being off the clock and not being forced to reply to emails or even look at them? Like, wow, that would never happen in America.
No, that
Congress
would never
do such a thing.
In contrast, I know at least 2 people that were forced to accept a second corporate cell phone so that they could be, connected to the servers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what else, Andrew, you bringing up France made me think of this too. Another recent story, I think it was just in the last couple of years. I guess French Parliament increased the age of retirement by like 2 years. And people, like, work stopped. People flooded the streets. Shit was on fire. Like, they incrementally raise the retirement age in this country all the time. Like, right now, what's the age? 67. It's not going to be 67 by the time we retire.
No, I thought it was like 75 to receive like full benefits, right?
Yeah, I think
or
at
something
67
like
you start getting partial benefits, but you're right, Pam, you do have to reach a different threshold to get full. At the same time, though, don't you feel like that's a little bit like it's like playing slots or like playing a game of chance because you don't know how long you're going to live. So it's
well, this is making me rethink the age I want to check out of life.
Right.
Okay, what's the new age?
What did you say? 67 is the current retirement number, so 68? Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. 67.
67, all right.
I get a year of retirement, and then I'm like, well, if I don't live any longer, that's fine. That would be awful. And then I'm curious, Laura, you were living in Costa Rica for a little while. What was the work-life balance vibe there?
Yeah, so I taught down there for a couple of years, and, people still have very, like, standard, as we would think about it in America, like working hours. But the difference is if you're not in your working hours, if you're not within your working hours, then you're not working. So, like, you wouldn't answer emails after you got home from work. You wouldn't take phone calls about work things. You wouldn't take work meetings. Like, there are lots of things that are just sort of expected in the United States to happen whenever it is they want them to happen, regardless of whether it's your agreed upon working hours. And that just wasn't the case down there. There was also just a lot more respect around, like, being off if you were sick or being off for vacation. Like, people left you alone. Like, culturally, there wasn't this attitude of, like, having somebody try to reach out to you when you were supposed to be off work. Fortunately, that's not something I've experienced in a long time, but it is something I have experienced before.
Yeah.
And it's very annoying.
And we thought COVID might change that here. Like, it might encourage people to take off, stay home when they got sick.
No.
But maybe that lasted a little bit, if at all. And then we've gone back to just.
Yeah, people are right back to that shit. It pisses me off so much when I go out and someone is actively being sick in a public space without a mask on. I'm just like, were you born yesterday?
Have we learned nothing?
Yeah. It's crazy.
So I'm curious, looking at this study again, and then looking at our own lives, how our priority lists have shifted over the years. For me, when I first moved out of the house, I moved to LA. And for a while, the LA dream was number one for me. It simply felt like I made it just by living there. Like that, I'm living in the second biggest city in the country. I'm doing good. I can afford to live here. All of that. But then things were getting more expensive and I felt like I hit a career wall in LA and I didn't really see the purpose of living there anymore. So I thought it was time to try something new. So living in LA didn't define success for me any longer. As I was closing in on 10 years there. And I think others who I knew out there also felt the same way, because I had this group of 5 or 6 friends who have all since moved out of LA. And as far as I can tell, we don't talk anymore. As far as I can tell, they're all living in smaller towns where it's presumably more affordable to live. And because of that, it's probably just an easier way of life. And maybe you're closer to old friends and family. And I like to see that. It's refreshing because I think so often with LA or New York in particular, there's this emphasis on if you live there, you've made it. And if you move anywhere else, you've failed. And I think just reality has really closed in on people and we've become more comfortable with sharing the idea of living in smaller towns across the country. And then in more recent years in my life, in terms of my priority list, I've tried to work a 4-day work week. That's been a priority for me. I've had mixed results for that. I tend to treat Friday as like a flex day, or as somebody described it to me, a summer Friday. We do these shows, this show and MuggleCast at 4:30 p.m. And after starting work at 7 a.m., that sucks. So I like having the flexibility on Friday to kind of make up for these longer days. And of course, we do Patreon benefits too that run later into the day as well. And then on a related note, I wasn't always comfortable with this idea of having this untraditional job, this podcasting life. And I've dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome, and I compare myself to others who have more traditional jobs. But I deal with this by prioritizing living over work. So while I may not make as much as a senior executive vice president of global cross-functional operational synergy and strategic operation initiatives, I earn more, I feel, by way of flexibility in my workday, not having one big boss I always have to answer to, having flexibility in where I work, and just generally not dealing with the stupid sides of corporate America. So again, while I may not make as much as that big, long title, I think my life and career pays dividends in other ways that are ultimately more beneficial to my long-term health. So this is all helping me prioritize mental and physical health as my number one sign of success.
Yeah, I prioritize mental health a lot more than I used to. And I feel like all it takes is one good scare for you to realize that you have a problem, or you've been brushing it under the rug for too long. So for me, it was just this awful major panic attack I had. And then after that, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to reset. I need to go to therapy. I need to get some help. I need to organize my brain so that this doesn't happen and understand why it happened. And so that I don't have to, constantly deal with the fear of that happening again. So I think that that was about 10 years ago now. And it's something that has really stuck. And so especially if I find myself going through longer periods of stress or feeling like I'm taking on too much, which is really easy to do, then I know that I need to take a step back and figure out what I'm prioritizing and what I shouldn't be prioritizing, because sometimes it's really easy to say yes to too much, and you don't realize that you have too much on your plate until you run out of hands to hold all those things.
And you finally have that major panic attack that you thought you might be avoiding. That happened to me too. For people listening who might be feeling similar to you, Pam, or like I said, I had something similar happening to me actually about 10 years ago as well. What was the number one thing that helps you reorganize your work-life balance? Was it the therapist or?
Yeah, it was the therapist. Just getting in there and finding somebody. It took a while to find someone, but finding somebody that was going to hold me accountable to going, because I met with a lot of therapists that were just not the right fit. And a lot of them were just like, oh yeah, like you can just schedule appointments for whenever you need to. And one of the main reasons why I ended up with the therapist that I still have now is because she was one of the first ones that was like, okay, like it sounds like you need structure. So we can just like get you in. We can on like a standing, rotating schedule. And I think that was the start of understanding that like creating a routine for myself was going to be really helpful in terms of helping me learn how to prioritize. Because I think that a lot of what mental health is prioritizing and realizing what you can put on the back burner and what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And then there's like the trying to like grapple with like the flexibility of like, well, what happens when your routine gets like a wrench gets thrown into your routine? And sometimes I still struggle with that. Like, because I'm very comfortable in like, you know, the routine that I have. So every once in a while when a wrench gets thrown in and it feels like it's the end of the world, that's when you're like, okay, I need to like take a step back. I need to reset. I need to really figure out why it is that this is bothering me so much. So this like one thing is like throwing me completely off.
I need to like meditate and ground myself. Like
exactly. Yeah. It's like, did I drink enough water? Did I get enough sleep? Do I need to go back to the gym for another hour? Like, what do I need to like realize that this is not, it's not the end of the world, that like my schedule was thrown off a minuscule amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like oftentimes, Pam, when I'm running through that checklist with myself, it's almost always because I need to drink water. And that's not to say that it's like
so much.
Yeah. It's not to say that it's like me not drinking enough water led to the problem, but it's like once I hydrate, I feel more clear headed. And I'm able to approach the thing that was bothering me from a more like balanced and like organized perspective instead of like freaking out about it.
Yeah. It is just like, it's like drink water and then maybe get a snack. And so you're like, you know, like your blood sugar is leveled out, you're hydrated.
Or go for a walk or work out. Like for me, I need that midday workout, or like I wouldn't be able to get through the rest of the workday. I just feel so lethargic. How about your priority list, Laura?
Yeah, so I kind of like the two of you. About 10 years ago, I was going through a lot of mental health challenges, and we
all had anxiety 10 years ago.
I know. Cute. Is it something about that age range when you're like
crippling anxiety?
Yeah, you like get kind of into your 20s and you're like, oh fuck. What am I doing?
I'm one panic attack away from a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. The amount of times that I would sit there and be like, it's a panic attack. I don't need to go to the hospital. I'm not dying. I'm not dying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Had that a lot of times. And for me, what that represented was realizing that I wanted to change fields. And that's a pretty scary thing to do when you're in the middle of a master's program and you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this anymore. So I like probably not super healthy, but I just kind of like bore my way through the rest of my program and finished it. So I had my degree, but then I promptly went out and applied for jobs that were not in that field because I didn't want to do that anymore. And that was a scary thing to do. But at that time, it was good for me. It kind of like, I felt like unlocked more like creativity and flexibility for me. So that was really good for my mental health. But I will say over the last couple of years, I had another mindset shift. And that was, a lot of it was due to getting my MS diagnosis a couple years ago. I had to make some lifestyle and habit changes because I literally had to manage the disease. But that really opened up the door to me realizing that I had been backsliding on maintaining my mental health, and I had kind of been putting it on the back burner because I work a lot. I have a day job and then these shows afterwards. So I think a lot of times I was focusing so much on like all the work that I wasn't focusing enough on the things that were really most important. And as a result, I kind of like slid into this habit of people pleasing where I was like getting the dopamine hits by getting positive reactions from other people. So it was like wanting to be right or be good or be smart or whatever, insert whatever like positive adjective in there you want to. I had really let myself backslide into that, and that is not a healthy way to live. So I had to start setting better boundaries with myself and getting better at saying no. That has been a challenge, but it's gotten a lot easier over the last couple of years. And I have found there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in saying, no, I can't say yes to everything. Because if I say yes to everything, I'm just going to be chronically stressed.
And you spread yourself too thin, right, and everything starts to suffer. All aspects of your life, right, not just work. Is there a point where work actually is lower on the priority list? Like we all want to lower it down the priority list, but the fact of the matter is it is a critical part of our lives as much as we want to prioritize these other elements.
Yeah, I just think it's whenever you reach a point of financial stability or comfortability, but that can really look different for everybody. It depends on how you define that. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, honestly.
Yeah.
Because that could be different for everybody. Just kind of like how I kind of like this idea. Like I think that the definition of wealth and being wealthy is also kind of shifting. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily about like having millions of dollars anymore. It could just be about like knowing that if you wanted to, like you could take off for, a couple weeks and like take a trip to Europe and pay for it in cash or effectively and not have to charge it, or even because you know that the money's there,
or even just wealthy in peace or relaxation, hours in the day.
Yeah,
exactly.
Take a lot of different forms.
For sure. I think it can be a little bit of a tough balance. Of course, like y'all are saying, it is relative person to person, but there is that old adage of like money can't buy happiness, but it sure helps. And the reason that kind of rings true is that if you don't have enough money to like adequately support all of your needs, or even things that are just really important to you, if for whatever reason you can't afford those things, then that's going to make your life really stressful. I mean, I pulled some examples here, like of the big essentials, which is like having a home, being able to afford groceries, being able to afford childcare. Like those are really common stressors that people experience all the time in this country, right? So, I just tend to think of things like that as being like, if you have those things covered, I feel like you're in like almost like a net neutral space where it's like things are like stable, but they could be better. And I still like, obviously that's still a reasonable way to feel. Like, I think you can want both,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to think that money buys happiness to a point.
Yeah.
And then you got to put in the work elsewhere to continue building happiness,
right,
and all that.
Well, yeah, these people who hoard money like dragons, and it's just like, like you don't need that much money. No person on this planet needs that amount of wealth. Like at that point, you are just being greedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's totally reasonable to want to be able to like raise a family and retire comfortably, not in excess, but like to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, to not have to worry.
Yeah.
More for president. Comfortable life 2028.
Oh,
That's
man.
a good platform. Hey, I'm going to give you a comfortable life if I'm president. Woo!
Yeah.
I'd vote for that.
No tax on comfortable life. What does that mean? I don't know, but it sounds good.
We'll figure it out later. We asked patrons how they define success. Sarah said, I think money/wealth is part of success, but not in the traditional sense. I think success is being able to take a vacation or fix your car without too much financial stress or having to put it on a credit card. We aren't there yet. I also think success means having a good work-life balance and being able to enjoy the things you like. To me, it also means having friends or family who you can count on to be there for you. I like how the definition is changing. Yeah, it's kind of related to what we've been discussing today.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to sum it up, honestly.
Yeah. Nick said, to me right now, as long as me, wife, pets are healthy and happy, and we both have our work-life balance all actually balanced, I'd say I'm successful. There's always going to be money problems, especially with how shit our country is right now, and worries. But shit happens. If I can go to bed not worrying, it's a success. That's a good point, too. I think you have to keep in mind, for as much as we pursue being happy and pursue happiness, there's still going to be those days that are bad. And the worries are going to come back. It's human to have anxiety. My psychiatrist brought this up to me recently. She was like, we don't want to turn up your anti-anxiety meds too much because you need to feel something.
Yes.
The anxiety keeps you motivated. You just don't want to think you're having a heart attack.
It's funny you mentioned that because I have in the past, like, when I felt like I've been feeling too much, I have literally said to my therapist that I wish I could just feel indifferent about everything. But then when you really sit back and think about that, because that's like an impulsive desire, you're like, I don't want to feel indifferent about everything because then I wouldn't feel anything. And some feelings are nice.
See,
they inform your decision making in a good way.
This is one of those areas where the master's degree that I'm not using comes in handy because there are tons of studies that show that there is a certain amount of anxiety that is very healthy for you to feel. There's a certain amount of anxiety that drives heavy motivation for students when they're taking a test, but there is a threshold. And if you exceed that, it is no longer good for you. You also need it because it's part of our instincts, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's there to protect us because there was a time when we would be like living in caves and fending off predators, right? So it's there for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to as an aside, if you're struggling to explain anxiety to somebody that doesn't understand, like the way Laura just put it is the perfect way. It's just like, yes, everybody has it, but like my brain does not stop it from exceeding the normal amount. So where you would stop, my brain keeps going, and therein lies the issue.
Yeah.
So.
I'll read a couple more here. Alyssa said, contentment in my day-to-day life. Am I building a life worth living? That is what I'm trying to achieve. And if I can do that, I will feel successful and content. And finally, Summer said, I don't care how cliche it sounds. To me, success means being happy. Whatever happiness means to you. Contentment with life, financial success, health, a loving support network. Harry Styles is quoted as saying, if you're happy doing what you're doing, then nobody can tell you you're not successful. And I often come back to that quote. I like that.
That is nice.
It's all about you, not what 3 people say on a podcast.
Very true. Although it is easy for Harry Styles to say that. I'll just observe.
True. Thanks to everybody who answered that question over on our Patreon. And through all this data and the responses, it's nice to see people so receptive to prioritizing good things in their life instead of work. Because I always like to remember, and I tell this to other people, your job doesn't love you back. Your job will dump you.
Ouch.
Sorry.
But it's true.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. The thing about that sucks that I just feel like I have to add is that may not necessarily be the people at your job. I think it's very possible for you to work with good people, but also experience that anyway.
Yeah. This show is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com to support us for as little as $5 a month, and you can get instant access to perks like After Dark. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, we're going to be talking about the Coldplay drama. And then we're also going to be discussing when people we know have been caught cheating. You can also get access to ad-free episodes of the show, our live streams, and a lot more on our Patreon. And when you become a patron, you'll be able to listen to all of our bonus audio content right within your favorite podcast app.
Visit patreon.com/millennial and get started today with a 7-day free trial to check out all of our bonus content, including After Dark. Annual subscription discounts are also available.
Other ways to support us include visiting shop.millennialshow.com, which is where you can pick up official show gear, telling a fellow millennial about the show, and making sure you're following us in your favorite podcast app.
Time for some recommendations. I recently read the new book by Taylor Jenkins Reid called Atmosphere. It is very heavily inspired by space exploration. It follows astronauts at NASA. Really fantastic book. It's a little gay. Taylor Jenkins Reid also wrote The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six, which the latter was turned into an Amazon series. All 3 of these books are great, but Atmosphere is her latest, and I would highly recommend it. Good summer read, too.
I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I just want to recommend a podcast, The Weekly Show with Jon Stewart.
And I wanted to recommend Color Wow Dream Coat, which is an anti-frizz treatment for your hair. Ooh. So if you suffer with frizziness like me, I would highly recommend trying this out and seeing if it works for you. It is summer in San Francisco, which means that it's foggy, just the way I like it. But that also means that my hair puffs up a lot because of frizz due to the humidity. So yeah, this has been a lifesaver, and I hope it works for you too if you try it out.
After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Bye everyone.
Bye. Bye.